Okay, everyone, welcome back to our lecture. As we discussed before, we talked a lot about online collaboration, remote working, and this sudden change that is happening. So for the second part of the lecture, we've invited different people to come present their experience, their perspective, their ideas on these changes that are happening here at the university, but also in other organizations. So we have a panel with Astrid Kramer, who's the academic director for our bachelor program, Business Economics. We have Corno Vromans, our director of IT and IT services here at the university. We have Lars Vleeshouwer, who is joining us remotely via our web connection. So Lars, I hope you can hear us okay?
Nice, yeah.
Excellent. And we have Heather van Engelen, a graduate student of International Business Administration. Heather, welcome. Can you hear us okay?
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. This is the first presentation of the example of all the things that we've discussed before working remotely and online. Starting this panel, I actually have one question I would like to ask each one of you. Is what is the first reaction that you have and that you've seen in the organization? So what do you think is the biggest change that is happening now, and what is the biggest challenge? Corno, if I may start with you.
Well, one of the biggest changes is that if we want to get things done, normally it would take us months and months before we can get things done. For example, to introduce new tools to support online education. Well, I think we normally have 6 months before we can do that. And now it is arranged within a week. So what really is something that I'm proud of is that we as a university, as an organization, we managed to do that within a week. And during your lecture, Kenny, you talked about technology, data, organization and people. And it's not about technology. The technology is there. It's about organization and people. And in this kind of circumstances, everybody has the same priority. We all work on the same thing. So we get things done within a few days. So if you imagine how long we're talking about digitization at the university, online digitization of lectures, I think within 2 weeks we're kind of a digital university.
Yeah. So it's really this sudden push that has happened. Which are the biggest barriers that have fallen away now for you? That you say, well, this is what is made. Is it because there's suddenly no authorization form required, or is there because of a sense of urgency?
Well, the sense of urgency. That's yeah, and there is a small team of people making decisions.
Yeah.
So we do not have to talk to everybody saying, well, this is what we want, what do you think about, what do you think about it? Normally we talk to all the schools, to all the people in the schools, to all the support staff and whatever, and now we talk within a limited group of people, and we make decisions. That's it.
Excellent. So that's interesting, because the different people that make decisions. Also, you're one of the people that would normally be heavily involved in these discussions, whether it should transition to online education. So how is this change for you? What have you seen as the reaction of the staff and the teachers so far?
I think all staff, at least the course coordinators I talk to, are really, I'm impressed by their professionality. They're, of course, within the Bachelor Business Economics, we already had some kind of online learning in the sense that all lectures are recorded and provided to students on Canvas. But last week I started to email all my the course coordinators in the Bachelor Business Economics, and we can record that online and we can make a tutorial online. Well, you, Kenny, were one of the most active people in setting up these online streaming events. I think, of course, it has still a lot of implications. When you're looking to these four perspectives, of course, they are interrelated. But it's a totally different way of working. And all of a sudden, we need to have software as Zoom, Canvas, Conference, as Skype. And I think that's also a challenge for everyone, because you have to learn and get familiar with all these software programs. And I think it's also now, and I think we talked about it on the phone, but also in your lecture. Now it's exciting, the first 2 days of, well, really that we should not go very far from our homes. Yesterday the weather was rather nice, but within a few weeks we are still maybe have to work at home, and some people don't have a desk or don't have a chair that is good enough for a good active work attitude. But yeah, I'm wondering what people are going to do and the interaction between our colleagues and all kind of.
So have you seen any big challenge so far that you think, well, this is something we well, maybe initially struggled with, or?
Not yet, I think, and that was a clear decision in the university. The upcoming 2 weeks, there are exams and midterms, and the message was they are not going to be any exam or midterms. So we have 2 weeks to prepare for the next round, block 4 in teaching, and now we need to start preparing for the. I think it might take longer than April 6th. We need to start preparing to be really online. And that's really from scratch. A lot of courses don't have online material, and that needs to be made in the upcoming week.
So that initial decision of saying, well, next 2 weeks we should have had exams, it's not happening, let's use that to start preparing for the next period.
Yeah.
Okay, so taking a breather and then start working. Okay, so you mentioned the excitement. Now I'm wondering, like, if that excitement, Heather, how do you and the students perceive that? Do you feel a similar initial excitement, or how does it look from a student perspective?
So I think nobody is super excited about the fact that exams, of course, aren't going ahead. But I think a lot of people are actually really happy to see how the university is so flexible and how we actually have all these materials and all these digital programs that we can actually do this, that we can do all the lectures from home. And I think it's really interesting to see how everybody, when we all have the similar goal, it's really interesting to see how we can all move together really, really fastly. And I think from a student perspective, what I think is really interesting is most often as a student, especially at university, I think you're very much thrown with, like, you have so many activities, you have so many other things to do, and at the moment the idea is of staying at home. So now it's really like everybody is full force towards their studies because there's not much else to do. And I think that really creates this perspective that everybody really works towards one goal.
So what is the biggest challenge that you currently face as a student? Is it do you still have access to the content? Is it a lot of different tools, or this transition? So what is the biggest, let's say, headache or barrier for students at the moment in fully being fully efficient and working remotely?
So I think what makes it the hardest is, of course, a lot of people study actually at university, and they actually go there to maintain their concentration. And what I've noticed personally, at least, is when you're at home, it's a lot harder to do so because maybe you don't have the right equipment, or it's just easier to get distracted because you're at home. So I think those are things that are currently really larger challenges, and also just facing the fact that there is a lot of uncertainty. So I'm also part of Student Party Echo, and within that we also got a lot of remarks from people who are just very afraid that they might not be able to finish this year, or have to pay extra tuition, or cancel their holidays because they don't know when exams are going to be.
Yeah.
So I think mostly the uncertainty is also a big part, which makes it really hard for people.
Yeah, I can imagine there's a lot of, like, before the users will see the effects of the decisions being made, as Corno mentioned, also there are being procedures put in place, but it will take time for users and employees to see those mature. One thing I want to pick up on that you mentioned, Heather, was that you said, and Astrid mentioned this as well, people don't always have a good place to work at home. They're not prepared for it. So for us as a university, that's one. But I'm actually wondering, Lars, you help a lot of other organizations. Is that a common concern in these places to work at home, or having a good spot where you can focus and concentrate?
Well, what I hear from my business customers is that at the moment this is not the big concern. Most people have some kind of internet connection at home, and most companies adapt to a certain software solution they already have, or if they don't, they don't collaborate using like the software that's available for that, but they just take their mobiles home, or they do some phone forwarding. So at the moment it's just trying to get as much as of the organization, keep it running as good as possible, using the means they have. And it strikes me that many organizations already have a lot of tools available, or can get it up and running very quickly. And it's also because of the big suppliers in those areas are usually already on the workplace that the user has. So in the short run, this is not a big worry, but I think as we go to the next weeks, we will start seeing organizations think about, okay, what can we now do and what can we not do using these remote way of workings. And also, what about access to certain resources, systems that are needed, or the use of devices. Not all organizations have the correct devices to take home, so those worries will come. But at the moment, it is just the consideration is to keep everyone connected in some way, and then just trial and error. Actually, that's actually what we see. So yeah.